Hi everyone! In this lecture I'm going to show you how to use your word processing software, Microsoft Word, to look for some of the things in your paper that you need to revise and edit for before you turn in the final draft. And really I'm talking about those issues of academic style, avoiding first and second person, not using contractions, avoiding weak constructions, and avoiding slang. And when you're reading a paper, a lot of times these, all of these things are individual teeny tiny words. And a lot of times as you're revising and editing, if you're not specifically looking for those things, and sometimes even if you are specifically looking for those things, your eyes will skip over them in your paper as you read your paper. And so we need to be intentional about picking these things out and looking for these things so that when we submit a final paper, it is as polished and perfect and professional as it can possibly be. So I have a paper here, and there's some issues with formatting and things like that, but what I'm revising for right now are those academic conventions, specifically, like I said, avoiding first and second person, avoiding contractions, not using weak constructions, and not using slang. Now, I've read through the paper, I've picked out all that I saw, that and fixed what I saw, what I caught, but I want to be 100% sure that I've got everything. So I'm in Word, and in the editing group, I'm going to click Find, Advanced Find. Now, we have to do Advanced Find, because if we don't, then we're going to have issues with how Word picks out things. I'm going to click on the More button, and the first thing that I'm going to look for are these instances of first person pronouns. And I'm going to have to look for them all individually. So the first one I'm going to look for is I, of course. What I want to do here under Search Options is I want to be sure to match case. So it's going to find any instance in my document where I've used I, uppercase, first person pronoun. And I'm also going to do find whole words only. If you don't use that command, then it's going to, if you have words like, if you start a sentence with if, and you've capitalized I because it's the first word in the sentence, then it's gonna highlight that. And it, of course you wouldn't change it because it doesn't really count towards what it is you're looking for, but it will be kind of extra. So I'm going to match case, find whole words only. And the reason I've matched case here is because this is always in uppercase. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do find next, and it says no results found. So there are no instances of in my paper of me saying I. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm not going to match case here because in this particular instance I could have used our at the beginning of a sentence, which would have been uppercase, or in the middle of a sentence, which would be lowercase. But I am going to find whole words only. So let's do this. Find next. No results found. Awesome. I'm going to look for the next one. Us. No results found. Second person pronouns. Oh, there we go. I missed one. When you get a college education, and again, we don't use second person in our documents, in our academic writing, in those documents. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to replace this with a third person noun, really, a third person pronoun. So instead of saying when you get to college, or when you get a college education, I'm going to put something like when a student gets a college education, or when an individual gets a college education. And in that case, grammatically, of course, you would have to change you to a noun, but you would also have to change the verb there as well. Okay, so instead of when you get, it'll have to be when a person gets, with an S on the end. All right, so I'm going to do, just to be sure, oh, there's another U I'm going to have to change, and that's it. So I had two U. I'm going to look for yours as well. Okay, no results found. Awesome. And let's see. Me. I don't think I'll find any me. Mine. No. Our. No. Us. Okay, so I think that's good. And you'll want to use the entire list of those first and second person pronouns as you do this. So, not bad. Just had a couple of mistakes in there, but those are mistakes that would cost my grade if this is the way I submitted it. So the next thing that I'm going to look for, let's see, let's look for weak constructions. So I'm just going to close that so you can see me find that dialog box again. My insertion point is at the beginning here. I'm going to go to Find, Advanced Find. I'm going to do Find Whole Words Only, and the first one I'm going to look for is really. Oh, I have a really important weak construction there. We've talked about weak constructions. Usually you can just take them out, or you find a one-word adjective that's more descriptive. So instead of saying something is really important, you can say something is essential. We don't want to use two words when one word will do. Or you could just take it out and it can be a college education is important. So let's see if I have another one here. Okay, awesome. What about very? Have a very there. Just one very, one really. Again, not a super huge deal, but it would impact the grade because these are things that need to be edited out of an academic paper. A weak construction that I use a lot is super. I say things are super cute, things are super funny. So we want to look for that one. Let's see, totally important. Again, a weak construction there. So those are good. We've looked for those. Now what I need to do is I need to look for slang terms. And there are, of course, a million slang terms to look for. But two that you definitely want to look for, a lot and okay. Those seem to be the two most popular slang terms used in academic writing. Now, if you have something that you say a lot, like I just said a lot, you want to look for that as well. Now, since I just said a lot, let me make a distinction. When we're talking in conversation, of course, we talk the way that we think. And if we were having, lunch and I said, I just do that a lot. We also want to look for words that are contractions because rather than use a contraction, we want to use the actual word. So instead of wouldn't, we would want to write out would not. Didn't, did not. She'll, she will. So we want to look for those as well. And those are super tricky to proofread for. When I'm proofreading my own writing, those always slip past me. So I'm going to go back to find and replace here. And I'm just going to type in an apostrophe. And that's all that I'm going to, type in. Just an apostrophe. And you can see here it finds the first apostrophe in today's workplace. Now, in this particular case, that's a possessive apostrophe. In what workplace? Today's workplace. Today's owns the workplace, so to speak. So that one's good. I'm good there. Today's CEOs and human resource managers. Now, let's see. That's a separate grammatical issue, so I'm going to go into the next one. CEOs. Let's go back. Oh, that one was one that I'd really like to look at. Okay, master's degrees, that one's good. So, yeah, didn't have any contractions in my paper, surprisingly. So that's awesome. Again, with the apostrophe, some apostrophes are okay because they're showing possession. So you want to go through there word by word and make sure that the apostrophes you've included are showing possession and not being used as in a contraction. That's a different situation. That's a different rhetorical situation. We're just having a conversation using slang terms. I say okay all the time. I say a lot all the time. That's a different rhetorical situation than writing an academic paper. And that's why we have to be so intentional about editing them out. So I'm just going to look for those two. Now, the first one I'm going to do is allot one word, because this is misspelled, but a lot of students write it this way. So no results found. That's awesome. And then I'm going to do allot separate. No results found. Awesome. Then I'm going to do OK. All right. Looks like I was doing a good job here. And OK. So those are, none of those are in my paper. Now, as you become more proficient at editing, I would just keep a list of words that you know are not appropriate for academic use. And, you may use words that I wouldn't use in academic writing, and I may use words that are inappropriate that you wouldn't necessarily use. So make a list of the words, this sentence and word level editing. Make a list of the words that you need to look for in editing and keep that list handy. And every paper you turn in, go back and look for those words using the find and replace command in your browser. And if you have any questions at all as you revise and edit, please be sure to let me know.